Welcome back, everybody, to Game 2 of our first game of Season 2 of Franchise Premier League. We have XSV again against To The Moon, so it's a 1-0 lead for XSV as they're on the blue side here. A bit of a weird comp from both of them, but yeah, I'm going to hand it over to True. Tell us about what this early game should look like, my man.
Yeah, I mean, both teams going out into, I don't want to say a standard 5-point because you can actually see
Oh,
Krabadabadoo
no.
in the bot
No,
lane
Fracture,
now.
not again. He
Oh,
gets
dear,
speared up,
Fracture, buddy.
electrocute hits, Deathmaster uses the ghost to chase him, Winter throws the boomerang, but it's not enough, and again, Fracture dies
Okay,
before this minute of the game.
I just want to say really quick, and it's because I have chat enabled. This happened right as Fracture sent the GLHF message, which is truly tragic.
That is
To
truly
behold.
tragic. Bro got stunned by the chat.
Yeah, like guy was literally just saying, "All right, let's have a good clean game," and then XSV said, "Yeah, how does this feel for you?" Oh man, I mean, like, okay, you know what? I will say this though, right? As bad or sad as it is that Fracture died, and you give another kill to Sinestro, and now the Sinestro gets to start his Hecarim with boots, right? As bad as that is, at least he's able to come back and get his camps, right? You
Yeah,
know,
prize to
no,
dying
it's not
level
much of a
1.
consolation prize. Prize implies you got something back for it. They didn't get much back, but they also didn't lose much more than just the first blood, which is just 300 gold. So not great, but not the end of the world. I think the other problem, and maybe the bigger problem in terms of scope here, is just that Fracture is being tracked, right? They know that Fracture went back to start the Raptors. With that ward on the red buff, they will absolutely know exactly where this Silas is. So that certainly gives the entirety of XSV, some additional little bits of information. Now, down here in the bot lane, we are seeing this Brand and Yunara be just about as aggressive as we expected into something like the Braum.
Yeah,
Yes,
heavy
Sivir has.
scrapping in both mid and bot lane.
Yeah, but like it's kind of hard for Braum to scrap back, right? Like the moment Brand walks up, you're kind of faced with an awkward situation of like, if you're post 3, can you throw E up? And like even then, you're just gonna start to chew through your mana bar. But as we're seeing Frisky really eating the bad end of things continuously here on this Braum, it's because you are melee. You're getting abused by the fact that Brand doesn't really have to hit you to hurt you. And it's difficult to deal with at the very least. But
tons of damage being dropped.
It could be worse.
Would be worse, but yeah, I think Evil Fallen and Krabadabadoo are going to have push as we see aggression from Murcielago onto Winter. Whoa, we see Ghost actually from this Hecarim. Oh, okay, no, never mind. That was just the devastating charge, but they did see him on the ward, so they do know the Hecarim's on the bot lane. We see another invade on the bot side here. Fracture, my man, I'm not sure if you're aware how many people are chasing after you on this blue buff. Oh, flashes out of the Pillar of Flame, so he does escape with his life, but that is blue buff stolen from him by the Hecarim. Man, it is rough game for Fracture again, as it just seems like XSV know his every move.
Yeah, and so much of that is just predicated off of that ward on the red, right? Knowing exactly where Fracture was and how like the progression on the buff means that XSV, they just have the opportunity to be like, okay, well, Silas should be here doing this at this time. Okay, well, mid lane we have push going forward. Bot lane we have push going forward. Like the Braum can't walk up. The Braum has been poked out. So, all of those things coming together mean that Fracture forced to burn Flash, forced to lose even more camps. And really, Sinestro is just extremely happy with how things are going, right? Like this Hecarim is completely unfettered, unbothered, and can truly do whatever he wants. Like the Silas is just playing catch up once again, like still playing catch up since game number 1, you could say. And yeah, that's hard.
Yeah,
Now,
unfortunate.
like things could be worse, right? Like I would say that things were going noticeably worse for To The Moon in game number 1 at this point. And is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I think that's a bit debatable, but I guess it just highlights how rough game number 1 was for them.
Yeah, so far off to a better start, but Fracture is still quite far behind. Hecarim is one of these champions that can power farm their camps, and Silas is one, that is pretty slow until you get those faded ashes. So luckily he did manage to get that on his first, but I guess second back if you count the death. But yeah, gonna be very hard because it is quite a huge farm deficit. I think that 500 gold is solely placed in the jungle matchup because all of the lanes are pretty much even or ahead in CS. Big thing is that I think Chaotic and Frisky MMO, they did see Hecarim on the ward, and maybe Fracture just didn't think that they were going to get invaded on, even after seeing them. But it still happened, as we see Defoe, not level 6 yet, but gets a nice trade, did TP back. And yeah, now Sivir and Braum have a bit more push in this lane since, Yunara, like we said before, having that power trough in, that early game once you pass your level 1.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
big
mean,
gank from
oh,
Fracture, though. Can they get in range for the stun? Abscond Abduct goes wide
oh
as
dear.
Evil Fallen and Krabadabadoo both flash out. So 2 summoners used there, none burned for the side of To the Moon. But now Hecarim is here, level 6, has the level advantage, just running them down with the Rampage, with the Ghost. Abscond Abduct out, but an Onslaught of Shatter sends him back as Fracture dies for the second time this game. The stun goes out from the concussive blows, but Chaotic by themselves is not enough damage. We see a roam down.
Well,
Oh, the Arc of Judgment slowing down Chaotic. I don't think they can catch up. They don't have the Call of the Hunt yet to get Defoe closer. Defoe, can he land the Solar Snare? Managed to hit it. One more Radiant Barrage gets the kill. No ulti needed, so it's a trade of 1-for-1 from a nice run from Defoe. All out in the top lane, though, as we're continuing to scrap everywhere. Murcielago, a nice hop, gets Winter out from the minions, but Murcielago gets the slow, has the Q3 charged up, flashes Pathmakers, hits the third hit of the Nofofo strikes, but Winter is still alive, so both flashes used in the top lane, but critically, that is the all-out ultimate used by Murcielago, and the Meganar has not.
yeah. So Winter, going to be able to sit a bit more comfortably. I think the other thing that we need to acknowledge here is that, oh wait,
Oh,
Fracture once again
Fracture.
fighting.
Fracture's on top of Caterpillar 4 now. Can he hit the Abscond Abduct? Managed to hit it. One more Radiant Volley, and we hit the Solar Snare. Flash out of the Solar Snare, as that's the mid lane's flash used. So Vex, very vulnerable to ganks now, and Defoe does have that single kill already, so maybe that can turn into more.
Yeah, I mean, so certainly, even though Fracture has been kind of set in the dumps here, still playing, like still trying to find opportunities, which is a good thing. Now, just to finish the thought I had in top lane, right? Like, yes, we saw that Murcielago as well as Winter were trading with one another, but the problem was that Murcielago had recently TP'd into the top lane and went for that all in. Meanwhile, Winter held onto the TP, so the Gnar came out of it looking a little bit better. Might be this
The wall,
Cassante
the
in trouble,
stun up
though.
from the slam. The Pathmaker hits, but Murcielagos might still get run down. The jump in. Oh, we're not on the camera, but the boulder
Hecarim.
toss doesn't have enough to kill. A stun into the devastating charge as Deathmaster's trying to run down this Gnar. Winter has no flash as it was used earlier. Can he get out away from this Hecarim who's so damn fast? Has the tier 2 boots, but manages to escape. Getting some poke back as it's a gank from Fracture for the
Silas.
counter. Murcielago doesn't have flash, doesn't have ultimate, gets slowed up by the boomerang, managed to buffer through one more chain lash. The explosion gets the kill on Murcielago, so a nice counter gank from them to pick up the kill onto this Cassante that overstayed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm not really sure I would call it a hard overstay so much as Murcielago wanting to provide potential, little bits of follow up, little bits of CC for Sinestro there coming in. Unfortunately, Winter was just so tanky. As Meganar, you are a bit tankier, you are a bit healthier than you are in the mini form, and hitting mini, just being able to create enough distance was key there. Now, so far, I would say, oh wait, another fight
It's
breaking
gonna be
out
a
around the
fight near
grubs.
the grubs. Fractures in on Deathmaster Pwn 2.
Sabbath's still there.
Own ulti. Defoe hits the rebuttal back on the Vex ulti. A nice use of that skill. Flash in Solar Snare does not get the root. One more auto attack. Does the Golden Eclipse kill? It does. Mal claims the feat of Warfare as we're seeing a TP. Oh, sorry, not TP recall, but Murcielago's here. 2v3 misses the Pathmaker as Fracture has some nice fancy feet to dodge that. Winter's still poking them. He's, poking the bear. Radiant Volley goes out. Can it get the snare? Misses. Caterpillar for now gets the fear. Abscond Abduct right under the turret, but it's not in range to fire back as Fracture, Winter, and Defoe pick up that kill in a nice 3v2 outplay.
Yeah, and things finally looking on the upside for. Oh wait, no, bot lane,
Ooh,
risky.
big damage on the
All
bot
right.
lane, but I think they're safe.
Yeah, and so things looking a bit better finally for To the Moon. Fracture, who had been tossed into the dumps once again in that early game, looking a bit better, looking a bit healthier. Now evened up the kill score, still down roughly 3-4 camps maybe, but still, like that is markedly healthier than it was in the first
Oh,
game. Oh,
Krabadabadoo hits the
Abnebadu
Pillar
looking
Flame
for
on
it.
a Chaotic. Spell Shield blocks nothing. But the Call of the Hunt to get them away. The last Conflagrate was not enough to get the kill. Will the burn passive do it? It will not. So Sivir runs away just by the skin of their teeth as Krabadabadoo's here. But yeah, that means Yunara gets to farm 2 waves by themselves.
Yeah, it's certainly not great, but I do think that the bottom lane for To the Moon has just been suffering this game. Having to play into the double range as well as just the constant stream of harass from Brand is a bit difficult to deal with, even when as Sivir you do have that spell shield available. Up here in top lane, Winter, trying to be a little bit aggressive, trying to get some trading in, but the Gnar and the Cassante, I can't imagine it would be ultra aggressive between the two of them. Sinestro continuing to do his work in terms of just trying to deny resources from Fracture, as we now see this Hecarim almost 30 CS over the Silas. But Fracture, I don't really think he might be all that bothered by it as he looks for a gank.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Fracture did manage to pick up the Void Grubs as well, so that's a trade for the Dragon Lane Void
chaotic.
Grubs. Now Chaotic getting jumped on. A nice use of the Rampage to get off the Spell Shield. Onslaught of Shadows gets barriered. Chaotic running back to their turret. Flashes there. Winter's now in a 2v1. Gets hit with the Pathmaker. Jumps out. Krabadabadoo gets spotted by the Ward. But now if you look at the bottom lane, it's still getting chased down on the Hecarim. And he has to go all the way back to the tier 2 tower to recall. So Chaotic ceding control of the bottom lane due to the ganks. As now this Runara gets the free farm. Oh, Fracture onto Krabadabadoo, hits the Pyroclasm onto him. That is stolen, misses the Abscond
Ooh.
of Duck as Krabadabadoo flashes the wall. It's a scrappy 2v2 up here, but I think I'm taking the top jungle over the top support any day.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to say that Brand doesn't have damage, but it certainly works out better for the side of To the Moon. Although Fracture might be a
Sure,
bit
get
of
aggressive
trouble.
with the steal, has to flash out after stealing the Gromp here. Dodges the Pillar of Flame, nice footwork from them to not get hit by that. That might have been a kill for Krabadabadoo. I'm not sure if Krabadabadoo
They're
wants
looking
to
for
stay
it.
longer. They're very deep. It wants this kill. Greeting for it. Kingslayer gets so much health back, but his Fracture gets the Triumph Rock and lives. So that is another kill for the side of To the Moon, as a bit too much hot-headedness from this brand makes him get sent down in the river.
Yeah, I mean, like things are really looking well here now for To the Moon. Getting these gold, like for your top mid jungle for this top side of your map. Everyone's at an advantage. Everyone has a bounty. Those kills onto Mel, the kills that Fracture is able to get, as well as Winter just having a healthier time in top lane, mean the world for To the Moon because now like you're in a situation where your mid lane is going to scale reasonably well. Your jungle is still quite a bit of a threat and now your top lane's still having a fairly easy time as we just watch Winter beat down on
Already coming
Murcielago.
down,
This may be a
Murcielago.
dive.
Flash for the all-out attempt does not work. Winter, why did you ulti the wave? As he didn't see the Hecarim here. Can he fight this out? He does have the Trinity Force completed. Deathmaster uses the Ghost for that extra damage.
Oh
A
my
stun
god.
comes out, auto attack. One more onslaught of shadows.
Oh my
But the
lord.
boulder toss kills him right at the end. It's a 1v2 outplay from this Gnar. Winter's on fire today.
Unironically, it's that slow from the boulder toss that I think actually reduces Hecarim's AD by enough that the Gnar is able to trade it over even with that reduced health amount. Like as you said, right? Like Winter transformed, even used the ultimate, and like it looked bad, but fortunately for Winter, right, able to stay alive in that situation, able to find something for himself. Murcielago might be punished for this aggressive
Lago went to
TP.
stop the recall, but Winter has the red buff and the blue buff. Has Neganar almost charged up one more time. Has the full meter, jumps on top of him, all out under the tower. Winter managed to tank one more, but I think they're going to die to the last tower shot, but a nice shutdown over. So it's another kill. That's another wave denied for this Conte as Fracture's trying to 1v1 this Vex. He is 2 levels down, but he managed to get everything on top of Caterpillar. Can he get the full combo? One more Kingslayer gets,
Oh
but he
man.
misses the Abscond of Duck just barely, and it's a shutdown over this Vex, and they're still fighting all over the map in the bot lane too, as we see the Braum and the Sivir getting collapsed on by this Hecarim, poked down to half health. I don't think this dive is stopping anytime soon as Evil Fallen's doing their best to clear the wave. Mid lane turret gets taken down by Defoe's Mel, and I think Hecarim's just going to back off as Chaotic and Braum, Frisky MMO are safe for
Be
now.
behind. Winter's coming in.
TP behind as we see Winter's TP. It's
Another
the
one too.
upgraded TP. Is in range. Misses the boomerang, but the Transcend oneself ulti gets popped by Evil Fallen. Evil Fallen still get running down by Winter. Do the Trinity Force. One more Snoller.
Caterpillar.
Snoller Snare gets the kill. Radiant Barrage picks that one up for free. So Defoe is on a killing spree. A nice double TP from both Winter and Defoe to get their team back ahead. Krabadabagoo gets hit with everything as they just die to the Searing Volley. That's just an amazing outplay. Sorry, not outplay, sorry, but an amazing burst from Defoe, knowing that they could just one-shot the very low-level brand. And now it seems like To The Moon have a lot of control over this game.
Yeah, I mean, things headed towards catastrophe for XSV here in this game. It looked like they were angling to dive the bottom lane outer turret, dive onto Chaotic and Frisky, but as Sinestro decides, like, okay, well, I'll just continue denying farm. I'll go into Fracture's blue side jungle, take as much as I can and take as much as I want. The moment the Hecarim walks away, that becomes a golden opportunity for the side of To The Moon. We saw the TP come in from Winter as well as Defoe. They're able to lock down, I believe, both Evil Fallen as well as Krabadabadoo. They get the dragon for themselves. Yes, they lose the Rift Herald, but they also got that first tower. They completed their feats of warfare. So things looking so much better this time around for the side of To The Moon, but Winter might be in trouble here.
Yeah, in trouble for sure. Winter's in a 1v3, gets it with the all-out, jumps out with the hop. They
God.
manage to launch the Onslaught of Shadows, but they got stunned up by the Seer. One more Natovo strikes, gets the kill, so that is not the shutdown onto the Gnar, but that is a pretty critical kill as Murcielago is going to have free roam over this top lane now. So a bit of an overstep from them, getting ganked. I think Krabadabadoo is having an amazing game, not just this game, but in the whole series, just very powerful on the roam with these support champions.
Yeah, I mean, Crab finding a good opportunity, especially like, a bit of a clawback from the previous deaths that we've been seeing from the brand. And certainly brand is still dangerous. I think that's one of the things that like a lot of people know the champion is infamous for. You can see like a 0-7 brand somehow have like second highest or most highest on damage on your team just because of, virtue of that passive, the virtue of the itemization that brand can have access to. So certainly Krabadabadoo, like in spite of the more middling scoreline, still very much a threat, as is with the rest of XSV for now. But that being said, though, right, like XSV is still behind here. To The Moon doing much better from Mills.
Flash into the snare and then the miss from the Vex ulti. So Defoe uses the flash to get out of 2 ults, but I don't know if they're going to survive the Searing. The ulti comes out, but the kill is picked up by Vex's Looming Darkness. So a shutdown onto the smell is so key, especially going onto the carry of XSV. So that is a huge 1-for-1 in favor, I think, even though it's a 1-for-1 for XSV.
Yeah, I mean, the shutdown gold certainly is going to make it that, as well as the follow-up of getting that turret. So a nice swing of gold for the side of XSV as things are almost all tied up, from To The Moon having, I think, something like a 2K plus gold advantage. But I think that just illustrates how delicate this game is for both of these teams. Gold swings can seemingly happen at any time. And
yeah, Murcielago just getting to beat down on Winter now that he has the fully completed Bramble Vest and the Iceborne Gauntlet with the armor. Not Ninja Tabbies. I'm too old for that. It's called Plated Steel Caps now. Yeah, so at 1.5 items being able to match this Gnar, I don't think Winter's going to be able to kill him now. Pathmaker misses, but there is a gank coming. All out. Winter flings him into the wall with the Gnar. Krabadabadoo, can you hit this Seer for the stun? Flash out by Winter.
I don't think it matters.
Out, but now the Rift Herald, and he goes back to Mega. This is a terrible time to go back to Mega, and he gets hit with one more Natofo. Gets ran down by the Hecarim. The brand gets the kill with the fire, but we see the jungler here, Deathmaster, runs in the Rift Herald, but managed to escape easily. It's now a 2v3 here, Fracture. I'm not sure if you can take this with your boy Frisky. So it's going to be a 2v3 continued in the top lane. And I think, To The Moon just did not expect that much aggression coming out on this Gnar.
Yeah, I mean, like I think that Winter really hoped that they would be okay, especially because you saw Murcielago flash towards the Gnar earlier in that little bit of an exchange. So it didn't really anticipate the Hecarim showing up. But it certainly worked out quite well for XSV here as we get closer and closer to gold parity between these two teams. And taking an inventory of like how things are going, I think you can certainly argue that both of the bot lanes are suffering a little bit in terms of getting gold for themselves.
Onslaught of Shadows on
going in though.
Crab gets taken down easily by the concussive blows and the Sivir's damage, so a nice free pickup there. Krabadabadoo's aggression gets them kills, but also gets them killed. So a nice look from that. That's right before the spawn of this dragon. Teleport coming in on this bot river. They're trying to clear out the Rift Scuttler. So it looks like it's going to be a just an absolute brawl in this bottom river for the preparation of the next drag. We'll have to see how it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with an infernal map, everyone does better with AD and AP. So both teams certainly
Oh, the
want
fear
that.
gets
Oh,
bounced back on the
Caterpillar's in
Caterpillar.
trouble.
She has to flash. A nice rebuttal from the Mel sends back the Mistral Bolt, fearing Caterpillar, actually, and that burns their flash right before this key objective.
Yeah, and like that does give to the moon a little bit more breathing room to be had, but you're actually seeing pings go onto the Otacon there in top lane from XSV, pretty much saying like, okay, well, if To the Moon want that dragon so desperately, they can have it. We'll take Otacon and get that permanent buff for ourselves. And it seems like To the Moon, they kind of really like they might have realized what's going on, but they are far too slow to react.
Completely unwarded, so on no vision, the blue team XSV just easily picks up the Thornbound Otacon. That is a huge buff with so many petals being picked up. That is a huge amount of adaptive force and EXP that scales so well into the game. That's one dragon. You're still 2 away from Soul, so I think XSV are very happy to take this trade. Fracture going in on Caterpillar. Doesn't manage to hit that Abscond Abduct, has to back away after the Chain Lash misses as well. So just a cheeky trade there, but not much after that.
Yeah, and but like it feels like the balance between these two teams is just like teetering on a bit of a knife, right? Or teetering on a bit of the edge of a knife. Just because it seems as though like they're both hurting for a fight, but it's difficult to call how it's going to go outright just because we've seen circumstances where both of their comps are being successful. And I feel like they're like circumstances mainly around picks and skirmishes, sure. As far as a 5v5 goes, though, oh wait, Fracture in a bit of trouble.
Sure is in the middle. He used his dash already, gets hit with everything. And another kill goes over to this brand support. KS means kill secured. And Caterpillar is now trying to take this blue buff. They managed, I think they got the reset on the Shadow Surge ultimate. It's of now, yeah, they did actually. They're flying in onto Frisky MMO, but that's not the target you really want. Glacial Fisher goes wide, but Cabadabadoo gets ripped into pieces. Defoe is now the focus of the entire team as Evil Fallen blasts him with the auto attacks. Golden Eclipse does not go off as Chaotic flashes over for the kill. Gets run down by the Hecarim again. It's a double kill for them, but they die for their attempt. Now Frisky MMO trying to be in a 1v3, hits the blast cone, but I don't think that was the right choice. Flashes over the wall. I think they're out safe for now. And that was, again, a 4v5. Winter did not have the teleport to join that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that the teleport was like all that impactful at the end of the day. Like by the time Murcielago comes in, most of the action is over, right? Like the key factor there was Fracture kind of just getting caught out completely, not really able to do anything substantial as he died, and as you said, gave another kill over to Crab. But like the re-engage, like I guess you could say the continued fight from Defoe, Chaotic, and Frisky, like that was also just difficult for them to handle because they were kind of split apart. The Golden Eclipse actually did go off, and it's why Chaotic was motivated to flash forward and wrap up the kill just to make sure that they get something out of it. But it's still a negative trade overall for the side of To the Moon, as their gold lead has completely evaporated at this point, and it's now swung back in the favor of XSV. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, because like it feels like both of these teams can have successful fights, but it's just predicated on really who gets to start it off on their terms. And earlier we were seeing that happen exactly for To the Moon, as it looked like they were just hitting their stride and able to press the go button when they wanted. But more recently, XSV are just having the better end of it all, and they're able to find their opportunities and find their positions onto the targets that they want.
Winter scrapping hits the Meganar onto the Cassante. Murcielago doesn't seem deterred, but Winter finally goes into this mini Gnar, manages to get the kite back. Ooh, a nice use of the hop, breaking the ankles of Murcielago on the Pathmaker. As we see, yeah, just a nice trade in the bottom side. We do see the Gnar finishing the Black Cleaver, so that is a key item to break the heavy armor stacking that is done by the Cassante. But now Chaotic getting run down by multiple people. Evil Fallen pops the ulti. Shadow Surge misses. Krabadabadoo looks for the stun but doesn't hit it.
Coming in.
To trade back a flash out from Krabadabadoo. an Arc of Ruin to keep them rooted, but Caterpillar gets hit with the Glacial Fissure and the Solar Snare, as now the Gnar is here. Winter getting the stacks of the Hyper on a Krabadaboo and gets the kill. I'm just going to call them Crab from now on, but that's a nice 2-for-0 over, punishing the over-aggression from XSV on that mid lane turret siege.
Yeah, and it really looked like XSV, they were angling to dive onto Chaotic, and Chaotic was able to just stay long enough. Able to stay long. Tripping over myself. Able to stay alive long
No
enough.
worries.
There we go. Nailed it.
Yeah, just
First
barely
time.
living that.
But like, yeah, as you said, barely living, but persisting at that point gives To The Moon the opportunity to get their TPs in, get their collapse in. Killed Caterpillar, I believe, killed Crab as well, and that's really good. I mean, like, I still think that Crab is quite a threat on this brand, because really, just never count a brand out as long as you have Ultimate available. But it does once again give, or like indicate, like these fights are just very volatile between these two teams, and it feels like it's either about whoever makes a mistake or an overcommitment, or who finds like the right opportunity first, the ones who are going to be most successful.
Fracture goes in. He's trying to tank up against this Hecarim, but Defoe's taken so low, has to flash out. The TP coming in for this Gnar as Winter is trying to make it there, but a huge knockback from the Hecarim as a double kill over to the brand from the passive. Defoe and Winter trying to 2v4 this now as they get the kill on Evil Fall, and a nice Radiant Volley gets the kill. Defoe gets the kill again with the Blackfire Torch and the Leandres. He's trying to melt the front line of Murcielago, but Murcielago is so damn tanky. Krabadabadoo managed to hit the Searing Pillar into the Seer. A huge stun from that gets the last kill onto Team To The Moon, and that secures the team fight. And maybe Krabadabadoo is going for the dragon, but that's for sure the mid lane turret for this Cassante, as it's going to be a 5-for-3 crazy team fight. But it was key that they still won this out, because this secures the dragon.
I mean, this is the second time now, right, where I think that we can look at Sinestra showing up like almost unexpectedly for To The Moon, because you saw Fracture steal Vex's ultimate. It's like, okay, this is our opportunity. We're gonna hit the go button, and all of a sudden the horse shows up, completely disrupts your game plan, and that sends To The Moon teetering, and they have to wheel back. They have to go on the defensive, and they're somewhat able to execute on that, as you actually saw Defoe able to come away from the fight with 3 kills, with a triple kill for that Mel. And maybe it would have been different if they'd been able to bounce the stun away and stay, like, continue staying separate.
What are you doing? Flashes over for the auto attack, all out over the wall, but Caterpillar in the waiting arms, all out over that wall. It's crazy as they're both just flying everywhere. It's Dragon Ball Z, but the Shadow gets onto him. Fracture managed to get the kill as Caterpillar just blasting him with the Mistral Bolt. So it's a 1-for-1 trade there. Frisky now getting run down by this Hecarim and the brand. He was too far forward in the enemy jungle with no team, so it's a 2-for-1 in the red side jungle. I think To The Moon just gotta slow down a little bit as they're getting a little too hypey for these plays, and this means that XSV are gonna go straight towards the Baron.
Hey, Fracture dying there might be catastrophic for To The Moon.
Shadows hits on a Winter, but he managed to jump out at the last second. A knockback back in. Deathmaster's running him down. Winter, can he get the Mega Gnar in time? Mega Gnar into the wall. One more auto, gets the stun. One more auto, and boom! Boulder Toss gets the kill on the other side of the fight. Defoe kills the brand, but his Sivir dies in the process. Arc of Judgment, dealing so much damage to Defoe. Can they get out? A nice Radiant Volley onto another auto attack. A Solar Stare goes up, but it's too little, too late, as Evil Fallen gets 2 kills on the back end of that. It's just Winter here, getting TP'd on by this Cassante. The Vex is right here to flank as well. Right here trying to secure the snare, secure the fear as they hit the Mistral Bolt. Barely goes wide as Winter's running for their life. One more Boomerang gives them the distance. They get the speed up from the Trinity Force. One more Boomerang. I think they're trying to kite out over the wall. Dodges the the Glooming Darkness, and now oh my god, Fracture missed the Scott Abduct. This fight is still damn going. Murcielago's frontlining as Evil Fallen takes some damage. Oh my god, the stolen Shadow Surge just sends him into 3. I'm not sure if you want to be there, Fracture. Fracture barely gets out alive. Frisky MMO has to flash out. Shadow Surge! Into your team. He jumps back into his team and dies. Almost gets his entire team killed as well, as the Shadow Surge picks up that one on the Braum, and it's just another kill going into XSV, and this team fight just never ends.
Operation Saving Private Winter ends up working out. Unfortunately, though, Private Frisky ended up going down. But honestly, that is not the worst of situations for the To The Moon there, because like you have Narm able to survive critically in that situation. And honestly, seeing Fracture go back in with that stolen Shadow Surge, it looked so dicey for the side of To The Moon in that very moment. But losing only your support, and then Frisky also kind of making like the choice to walk away after getting hit by Caterpillar Shadow Surge worked out quite well, like for To The Moon, at least just in terms of staying alive in that very moment. But I think we're
Yeah,
kind of looking at a situation where To The Moon, they're hard pressed to deal with the Cassante. Like the tankiness is coming through, and it's taking a bit long for them to deal with it. And like the longer and longer it takes, the more and more difficult the fight gets.
I was just gonna say I thought Frisky got his entire team killed by jumping back on them with the with the jump, with the stand behind me, and then with the Shadow Surge following. But I think it was just him that died was the best case scenario. Speaking of the scaling aspect, both these AD carries have kind of been in the background, scrapping heavily, but both of them have finished the Infinity Edge, so that's a huge break point for both of these champions. 3 items being completed for almost everyone but the top laners in this game. It's very high octane as the snare goes out on, Deathmaster, a big chunk getting taken out of them, but they do have healing. Frisky also taking some pokes, so both teams kind of testing the neutral ground.
Yeah, I mean, the game continues to be in a delicate spot. As you said, both ADCs kind of scaling up and into it. Fracture finding Murcielago, but I don't really think that the Cassante is a target
Oh,
that
called the hunt used to
Silas
chase
can
down this
viably
Heck
hurt.
Rim. Oh, a key ultimate being used there. No ability to kite out now. Solar Snare hits onto the Cassante. Has to Pathmaker out, but gets
Flank.
Winter is here with the flank. A nice Golden Eclipse gets the kill. All out over the wall, but he's burning down to the Leandres and the Shadow Flame. So the Blackfire Torch, the Leandres, the Shadow Flame, all that damage over time managed to get the kill on Murcielago. So the itemization working out very well for Winter and Defoe, but it's a 2v5 now around this this Baron buff. Vex is slowly working their way over. Caterpillar's not in range for the Shadow Surge, so it's going to be a free, uncontested Baron over to this team of To The Moon as they secure a key objective, swinging the gold lead back in their favor.
Yeah, I mean XSV, like they elect to just get the push off and walk towards the dragon on spawn and let To The Moon take the Baron. It's the safer play. You don't run the risk of like shutting yourself out of the dragon. They're able to get it, so they do go up to Soul Point. Shadows are stolen though.
Shadow Surge gets onto Evil Fallen's Yunara. Does have to flash out, dodging the Abscond Abduct. A nice chunk getting taken out of Fracture, but a nice use of that stolen Vex ulti to force the Summoner spell.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's a good response from XSV in that situation. Like, yes, they went for the safer thing. Whoa, Fracture in trouble?
Fracture in trouble here, scrapping with the Hecarim. I don't know if he's outscaled yet. Kingslayer gets him a lot of health. He uses the Blast Cone out, but now Chaotic is cornered. Krabadabdoo hits the Pillar of Flame, gets a lot of damage with the Conflagration. A nice Spell Shield gets him a little bit healthier, but he's stunned. He gets killed regardless as Hecarim goes down in that fight too, but Winter's running over this fight. Flashes over for the Yunar. She has no flash. Mega
The
Gnar onto
stun!
two, into the wall. The stun hits it. The cleanse was not enough as Caterpillar dies too, and now Cassante cannot tank enough. Gets melted by these AP carries as it's going to be an ace for the Sivir. They still have the Baron buff, but this is the first team fight that To The Moon was able to dominate, and they're going to use this to get pressure back on the map.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's great for To The Moon. It really feels like XSV in that situation. They bit off far more than they could chew. They thought they had the opportunity to kill Fracture. Then they thought they had the opportunity to kill Chaotic. And yes, the Sivir does end up going down because of how devastating that Brand ultimate is. But it's just a thorough overcommitment of resources as To The Moon. They are getting everything that they want. They are cracking open the base. They are pushing through the bot lane. And things are looking great for the runners-up of season one here, as they are just firing on all cylinders once again. And now they're at 7K gold lead. I will say, like, is that how impactful is that this late in the game? As like builds are getting closer to complete. I would still say at this point it's pretty relevant, as you can see that the collective gold of XSV is just cresting 60K at the moment. But yeah, I mean, To The Moon, feeling great. Like Winter finding so many strong opportunities, so many good stuns with that. With that Gnar. And it really feels like those last two team fights have just been kind of results of this Gnar being so critical at key moments.
Yeah, I think Winter's having a great game on the Gnar. Found a huge Mega Gnar in that team fight, but also just in the mini Gnar form, it has so much damage with these 4 items, the bruiser items. I think they melted Crab's brand so quickly, and them being another damage threat means that Defoe can kind of just stand back and free fire. And we saw Chaotic die so early in that team fight, but they kind of traded their lives for the Hecarim, and it was 80 carry for jungler. You think it's worth for XSV, but in the end, it's actually the solo laners of To the Moon dealing way too much damage, and that means they take over the team fight easily.
Yeah, I like ultimately. I think the problem is that for as difficult as it is for To the Moon to kill Murcielago, the rest of their composition probably feels quite, as you said, squishy. And if their comp isn't getting their damage off, especially with this melt, right? Defoe is 12, 4, and 5. Like, as much as we've been glazing Winter because of how well the Gnar is doing, and he is, um, the Mel is just continuously getting more gold, continuing to become a thorn in XSV's side. And as fights go on, as long as Mel is staying untouched, as long as the foe is allowed to persist and stay alive, it's super hard for XSV to stop the Mel from having a high impact in fights. And at that, we were kind of like talking about how To the Moon's composition was somewhat lacking in Engage, and they are, but they're making use of the fact that it seems like uh, XSV have been overconfident, over aggressive,
Ooh,
and
single snare
now,
barely
oh,
misses, but Deathmaster into the backline, chasing after this Mel.
be coming in.
Braum putting up the Unbreakable to tank up, gets the Glacial Fissure off, though, so clear, and, important to hit that off. Winter teleports in the back, has the Megas fully charged up, but now they're just playing the neutral again. I think Evil Fallen popped the Transcend oneself, so that's a key ultimate gone, and that's just the Glacial Fissure and the Call of the Hunt from the Sivir. Not very, other than the Glacial Fissure, not very needed team fight ults, but it's going to be a trade of the TP there, for free, but it is a key ultimate used by the Yunara.
Yeah, I mean, with Dragon coming up in just under 30 seconds, I'd imagine that To the Moon, they're very critically eyeing this. They don't want to give that
Oh,
soul.
Winter just jumping in on the Yunara and the Hecarim, no fear at all.
Yeah, I mean, like Winter more than happy to do that. Just feeling confident to be able to hit Meganar there, and if you do hit Meganar in the middle of the Yunara and the Hecarim, that's great for you. Fracture though,
Actually, just going for
who
this
is
1v2
the
easily,
situation?
misses the Abscond Abduct, hits the Chain Lash. I think Deathmaster realizes that he's slowly been outscaled. It's as this Silas is even at 4 items. A nice Onslaught of Shadows onto the back line. A flash away from this Braum as the Pathmaker goes out, but he's stunned up. Now in the back line, look at this Hecarim trying to run down this Mel. Hits a nice Solar Snare, though. He's getting taken so low, but so is Chaotic. Chaotic finally dies from the All Out, but a kill is traded back onto the Brand, and Hecarim dies too to this Mel. It's kills everywhere as this Cassante is not tanky enough. Winter jumps in on the back line. They
That'll
got
be
some
it.
auto attacks onto the Vex, but the Shadow Surge, such a key ultimate, misses, and now it looks like it's going to be the 3 members that are still alive of To the Moon trying to push for the game end. It's very long death timers at this point. Winter has a lot of damage and attack speed. It's just chunking down this inhibitor. First inhibitor gets taken down as they have the Void Drubs. No, they're just going to back off and not go for the end. They're going to go just for the Dragon to take us to Soul Point.
I think that's reasonable, considering that Caterpillar should have enough damage to clear the wave, and if not, that would probably still stall out long enough for Crab to respawn. So it's just going to be To the Moon making the choice. Okay, let's go towards the dragon. Let's make sure we deny the soul. Get soul point for ourselves. Like fights are going well for them, right? And we saw like critically in that fight, like Fracture stayed along just long enough for the Abscond Abduct stun to come through and kill Evil Fallen. I think if the Yunara stays alive a little bit longer, maybe that fight is different for XSV, but we're still seeing that highlight issue of Defoe on this Mel going from 12-14, or sorry, from 12-4 to 14-4. And it's super, super hard for XSV to have access onto this target. Like things were going pretty well when the Mel wasn't in fights or the Mel was dying early on, but that hasn't happened in a long time. And now XSV, they're so hard pressed to make that happen. And what they did in the previous fight was they tried to dissuade Mel from being in the fight, committing Sinestro forward, telling the Hecarim to just stop the Mel from joining in, and really it wasn't all that meaningful. Defoe was able to stay alive. And I feel like it's just XSV on the back foot. They just don't really have any way to fight things on their terms anymore.
Going to be a Baron started here. I think they saw Deathmaster or Sinestro. Oh, Flash Meganar onto
Flash.
the onto the Brand, doesn't stun, but now a nice auto attack from the Searing Radiance gets the kill for the foe. Frisky's taken so low. Pathmaker from the Cassante. Winter jumps in again, but he goes back to Minion at the worst time. Gets all outed on. He's still alive from the stairs cage, and Chaotic is shredding this Cassante apart. Onslaught of Showers into the backline as Yunar is getting threatened now. Abscon Abduct hits as Deathmaster is now in a 1v5 against the entire enemy team. You are strong. You took over the early game, but it is not enough to beat this entire team as Chaotic. Colvon is running down Caterpillar now. Fracture is straight behind. Abscond used Abduct, misses. Chainlash gets the slow, and a flash in auto attack from Chaotic rips this Vex to pieces. To the Moon might have gotten buried in the last game, but they come back strong in game 2. That's going to take us to game 3 on day 1 of Franchise Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, they come back in fantastic fashion. Like, things were looking a little bit dicey in that early to mid game, but critically this time around, To the Moon, they don't fall to a critically catastrophic deficit, and they come back. They end with something close to a 13K gold lead. And granted, right, this was a long game. It was a bit of a slog, but that's great for To the